We are so happy to have you here today. How are you doing?
I'm amazing. How are you? Hi, ladies.
Let's everybody give her our welcome. It's the online welcome. I feel like it's show tune, showstopper. Tasha, we're so happy to have you here. I was just telling them a little bit about you, but I'll do the official bio. And I know that time is ticking because you got your kids and your family to get back to in just a little bit. So I'm going to just jump right in. We all are welcoming you with our hearts. We're so excited to hear from you today about how to make our websites just so story brand spot on and do it as a mom and so we can do it like actually with our families. But her official bio is Tasha DaCosta is the founder of Lady Boss Studio, where she helps passionate female entrepreneurs create high converting websites and sales funnels so they can grow their businesses with freedom and ease. Did you hear the one big message in there, ladies? Did you hear who she is, who she reaches, and her outcomes? Oh yes, so good. And she is from Canada, is that correct? Do I have that right? Right. And is it Vancouver, did we say?
Close to Toronto.
Toronto. Okay. As somebody else I was talking to was Vancouver. I used to live there.
Yeah.
But we just wanted to let you know we're so grateful you're here. By way of personal introduction, the interactions that we have had with her, we have found she is so disciple thought leader mentality and mindset, where she is all about family first, but still being able to make a difference with the skills and the understanding that she has, and then being able to give back and say, how can I help women do better with the information that I have so that they can go on and flourish. So we are thrilled to hear from her today. She's going to teach us for about 20 minutes and then open it up for Q&A. So go ahead and put questions on the chat and or write them down and then keep them for when we do Q&A. All right, Tasha, take it away.
Absolutely. Thank you, Connie. I'm very excited to be here. It's going to be probably the fastest little mini presentation I've ever done. So if I'm going a little fast, I will absolutely get to your questions before we wrap up today. My kids finish school at 3 o'clock here. That's what time it is. So I'll be rushing right out to go pick them up. But it's that beautiful balance between being a mom, serving, loving your business, and having that all work together, right? So, all right, I'm going to share my screen. So I've got a couple slides just because when we're talking about websites, we're talking about how things can look. And I feel like visuals are the number one thing that's going to help bring things to the next level. I'm going to keep you guys right here. Okay, so we're just going to cover 5 quick essentials of a high converting website. Now, I am not going to go into branding specifically, as I feel like that is one, yes, it helps from a professional standpoint, from a credibility standpoint, but it's not necessarily going to help you right there on the bottom line. It's got to be there. It's got to add to your credibility. It's going to help you look professional in terms of using the same colors and fonts and that type of thing on your website, but it's not one of the 5 I'm going to cover today, because as far as I'm concerned for this conversation, we already all agree that that's important and that's already taken care of. So quickly, as Connie said, I'm Tasha. I've been running Lady Boss Studio now for 5.5 years. I started the business for the sake of needing to get out of corporate, be home with my then 1 son, now there's 2 in tow. And right from the get-go, it was, how can I optimize everything that I'm doing so it's not taking away from the whole reason of why I did this in the first place, right? And it's allowing me to leverage my time in a way where I can still keep making more and more money without needing to actually spend more time on my business. So we've been able to really, really be relentless in making sure that what the business creates is supporting the life we want to live, as opposed to having it really take over the life that we're trying to create. So number 1, in terms of what you need to have for a high converting website, I'm just going to move you guys to the bottom there, it's a little bit better, is the fact of, and I know you go over this already in what you're learning from Connie, but is really that hero statement. When somebody lands on your homepage, right from the get-go, it needs to be insanely clear, insanely obvious who you help, what you help them do, and what you're going to actually, why, give them a reason of why they're going to stay on your website in the first place. So whether it's the one big message or hero statement, whatever you want to call it, it needs to be insanely clear within 3 seconds of them opening up your homepage that they are in the right place and they are the right person that you want to work with. So I put there's a link here, and I can put the link in the chat in a minute, but I went through the Story Brand, which is Donald Miller's certification in 2020. And basically, it just walks you through sort of how to set up your homepage in order to really bring your audience, bring your user on a journey. And one of the big things he talks about is the hero statement. So I'm going to put the link here so you can kind of take a look at it. But there's a 5-minute marketing makeover. It's a free series that he does, and it walks you through your homepage and how to set it up for success. Because we went through the story brand training, all of our templates follow that same roadmap. So they're already built and designed to convert right from the get-go. But the very first and sort of most important thing is really from the moment they load, the top of your homepage is having that hero statement or that one big message, bright, bold, and clearly shown. Thank you, Lemire. Beautiful. Okay, so that's number one, hero statement. Number two, a lead magnet that gives your audience a compelling reason to get on your email list. Owning the data has never been more important than it is today. It's great to have social media followers. It's great to be doing these things on all these other platforms. You need the email lists. You need to own the email lists or own the email addresses, because that is your guarantee to make money in your business. That is your ability to connect with your audience, to nurture your audience when you want to, and you send that email, goes right to their inbox, as opposed to putting the post in social media, only 5% of your followers actually seeing that, and then you're hoping it sees them, you know, at the right time, depending on what time of day they're on social media. When you have email lists and people have raised their hand, or email addresses, and people have raised their hands to say, I need this. This is like the thing I'm looking for next in my business, in my life, whatever it is. You've got a direct line of communication to serve those people, to nurture those people, to also sell to them as well. I'm just going to make sure I didn't miss anything here. When you are looking at your lead magnet, you need to have a dedicated opt-in page, a dedicated lead magnet page, so people can be convinced that much more to go ahead and sign up for your email list. Like I'm showing here, this is an example of one of our opt-in pages from a template that we have. But basically, this page is dedicated. There's no header, there's no footer. It is just dedicated to convincing those people who would be the right fit to sign up for that lead magnet. So it takes them on their own little mini journey down the page of, this is what you're probably dealing with. What if you could have this instead? Here's what's included in this free thing. Here's who I am. Now go ahead and sign up for it. So having a dedicated opt-in page outside of your, your footer, outside of the sidebar and your blog post, outside of maybe one section on your homepage, you really do need to have that dedicated space that is selling for you, right? Selling being getting them to opt in and trade their email address for the thing, selling for you 24/7. Number three, so each section on your website, on every single page, needs to have a title. Okay, most people skim. We know that at this point, right? Everybody's busy, especially if your target audience is moms and they've got kids running around. We're skimming everything that we're doing. So the fact is that every section, and if you watch the 5-minute marketing makeover, you'll hear Donald Miller say this over and over. Every section needs to have a title that very clearly says what they're going to find in that section that they're looking at. Now, we're going to talk about clear and concise copy in a second, but you'll also notice as you're looking through this and you're seeing the titles, none of these sections have 15 paragraphs of copy, right? So there's the title, here's what's underneath that section. It's incredibly clear, concise, and to the point of what is in that section and what's that next thing that you want them to do. So as you're making your way down your homepage, your services page, your about page, your contact page, every new section you're introducing is going to have a title that lets them know what to expect in that section. It gives them the opportunity to pay attention to the things they need to pay attention to, right? And to not pay attention to the things that they don't. The other thing too is a lot of the time, especially if we're looking at the about section, most people are just kind of checking a box to make sure that like you have, authority, you've done this before, this isn't your first, time at the park. They just want to be able to look and say, okay, hey there, I'm Maddie. Here's my show of empathy. Here's my show of authority. Okay, they don't need to read anymore. The fact that that section clearly outlined what it was, they can kind of like tick that box and like move on to whatever that next thing is they're looking for. Thank you. All right, so next up are consistent call to action buttons. And this is one that I feel like really makes a difference, and it's such an easy thing to implement. But we want to have all of the call to action buttons on your website absolutely the same color. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. Every CTA button on your entire website is one of your brand colors, and you do not use that brand color anywhere else. A lot of the call to action text will be the same, especially if it's on your homepage. Chances are there's one path that you're most likely looking for people to take. Maybe it's book a call, maybe it's join your email list, maybe it's shop your templates, whatever that next step is that chances are is going to be in most places on your homepage. Keep that text identical. Obviously, if there's an about section versus a shop the templates, it's going to be a different text, but the button color will always be the same. What you're doing is training your audience, right, to know that anytime they see that color on your website, they see that button, there is an action that is expected for them to take. You're sort of training them to, when they see that you're calling them to action to do something specific on your website, it's very noticeable to them because it always has that specific color. That doesn't mean that color needs to be fluorescent yellow or red. It doesn't have to be like the most eye-catching color that you could think of, but it needs to be consistent. All right. And number 5, I went through that really fast. Number 5 is making sure you're giving your audience a way to buy from you without you needing to get involved. I understand if it's a coaching program, you may have an application process, right? You may need to vet people before you want to work with them one-on-one on like 6-month or 12-month capacity, and that absolutely makes sense. But there's a lot of situations where you could have a sales page doing 90% of the work for you. And you can still offer them the opportunity to book a discovery call if they need to, have human interaction before they're willing to make that decision. Let's say if it's a higher ticket program. But let your sales pages do the work for you. This was one thing I didn't really understand the power of a sales page when I was first starting out. And we had kind of little shop pages and things here and there. But now we don't do well, we haven't really ever done a lot of discovery calls, but for our highest ticket package right now, which is a semi-custom website, which is the one we push the most people will book that right off our website without us needing to have a half-hour or 45-minute long sort of call convincing them that we're the ones to work with. In most cases, they will go straight from website to booking that package without us needing to like vet or have a conversation or convince them otherwise. So having sales pages, whether it's for a course, whether it's for a coaching package, whether it's a group program, whether it's for a smaller and $27 digital product, having a sales page that is doing the work for you 24/7 means that obviously it saves you time, of course, but it allows you to increase your conversions because when you're sleeping at night and you're not able to sell, this is essentially doing the selling for you, right? Last up, which is a bonus, so number 6 technically, is of course making sure that your website is mobile optimized. There's a lot of times where I will see someone is so happy with their website, I'll go and take a look at it, I'll pull it up on my phone, and things are completely out of place, things aren't where they're supposed to be, or the text is massively large, right, compared to what it should look like on the phone versus the desktop computer. So really looking at, I know what the experience feels like from like a desktop perspective, a computer perspective. Is that same experience still happening when they're on their phone? Because at least 50% of users on your website are going to be doing it from the phone. And there's a lot of times where you might actually end up hiding a lot of the things that are on the desktop that they don't really need on mobile, because then they're just scrolling for a really, really long time. So just going through and really making sure that the experience feels the same and feels as seamless on desktop as it does on your mobile device. Let me just move this out of the way here, minimize so I can see you guys. So I went through that really fast because I summed everything down to make sure that I wouldn't take too long. So I'd love to open up the floor. I'm going to stop sharing. And if you have questions, if you want me to elaborate on one of those points, if you got questions about that, please, I would love for you to unmute and do so. Unless you prefer to put it in the chat, that's fine as well, but I'm totally good with you unmuting.
I have a question, Tasha.
Hi.
So on your, I loved how you said on your sections that it was pretty simple, succinct, straightforward. But if I go to like my lead magnet page, or I go to another, I click on that section and go to that other page, would you do more copy on that and more paragraphs explaining, or would you try to keep it as simple and clean as your other page? Does that make sense?
Yes, it does. Absolutely does. So the homepage is obviously where you're going to be the most succinct out of anywhere, right? Because that's where sort of it's like the catch-all, and there's a whole bunch of sort of moving parts and different paths, different avenues that they can take. When you're on the about page, or when you're on the opt-in page, or when you're on your services page, you can 100% be a little bit more wordy and a little bit more descriptive, as you would need to, you know, on a sales page, for example. But I still want you to be careful of, if you have a lot to say, making sure that you're breaking that up into smaller chunks, breaking that up into smaller sentences, really making it digestible from a conversational point, right? So like, we're not looking at for like the college essay. This really is, if someone's reading this, does it feel conversational? Does it feel like I'm kind of inviting them in? And it's really kind of smaller bite-sized chunks that they're able to absorb. As an example, let me just see if I can pull it up here.
Yeah, I'm wondering too, because as you're pulling that up, sometimes I feel like there's that eternal scroll where you're reading and they go through the story and you're like, okay, and then they go through and buy here and then another story. And I'm like, is that still, but I'm like, I'm always scrolling, even though there's several call to actions. Does that make sense? I mean, it's the same call to action, but several buttons for it.
Yeah.
Do you think that's a good thing? Or do you think like, no, like, does it really need to be that long where I'm always continually scrolling?
I don't think so. I mean, I love to read. I'm an avid book reader. But if there's like, I see 4 paragraphs in a row on somebody's website, I'm gonna have to be really, unless I'm like reading something so I can learn instructions, I'm going to be very, very hard pressed to go through all the minute details. And as an example, like this is an about page template. You can see like, you can add more info in here, you know, the light bulb, like what's your background story? What did your story look like? And you can add more to this, but you're still going to be breaking this up every sentence or two so that there's breathing room. There's room for them to actually absorb the content instead of it just feeling like a really overwhelming chunk of text. So yes, you can go bigger, but I wouldn't suggest having, you know, 6 paragraphs worth of information. And even with sales pages, I actually have a screenshot here. This is from one of our templates. Obviously, I use the same template just to show everything. But even with the sales page templates, you'll notice that there's a lot of information on this page, but everything is broken up in bite-sized chunks with titles, so it's all digestible. You can absorb it all. Even the testimonials, like I know people love to get testimonials that are really long and detailed, and you can have a case study page for that. But like most people reading this little testimonial, 1 or 2 sentences, they get to check the box of yes, this person's real. They can do the things that they're saying they can do, and that's good enough for most people. The people who need the case studies will go on and read. You know, that's only going to be a certain percentage of your audience will go on and read those start to finish. But for the most part, people are just like checking that box and needing to see that it's legitimate. But none of this will have massive amounts of text or information. It's all very sort of easy to flow and easy to read. The other thing, just from like a design standpoint, whether it's a sales page, whether it's a homepage, any page, you'll notice that the color blocking really allows for us to differentiate between one thought to the next. So you can see like the background colors here really allows to break up, like, you know, is this the problem you're dealing with? Does this sound like you? And then sort of what's the next thought and what's the next thought? So it visually allows that like sort of break and move on to whatever that next thing is, that next thought is. Does that make sense, Amira?
Yes, that's perfect. And that's super helpful. Thank you.
No worries. Did you do your own website? If so, which program do you use? Wondering what you would recommend. So yes, we do WordPress websites. So I've done ours. It's what we specialize in. And that came about very honestly from the fact of me saying, okay, I don't want to work in corporate anymore. I'm going to become a virtual assistant and I'm going to build my own website. And the amount of money, time, tears, everything that went into figuring all of this out on my own. I was like, there needs to be a better way. And I remember being in my living room, because my desk was in our living room for 4 years. I was actually really okay with that, because it meant I was like the command hub of the house. But I remember being in my living room, it was really late, or maybe it was really early, I can't remember, and saying to my husband, I had just finished our very first WordPress course, and I was like the world needs this, because it doesn't have to be like, I know the experience I went through doesn't have to be what everybody else goes through. There's a way easier way to do this. And there's a streamlined way that new business owners, even existing business owners who aren't web designers, can figure all of this out and learn how to do this from a place that actually really feels supported, as opposed to spending hours, weeks on Google and YouTube videos trying to sort of, you know, Frankenstein this thing together that they're hoping is all going to work at the end of the day. Sarah, we can talk about that. Thank you. Angie says, thank you for sharing. Actually just hired a company to build our website. Just had a meeting with them yesterday. This actually helps me to be able to communicate with them as well. The other thing I can say, Angie, as well, is we have a homepage copy template. It's a free template. But what it is, it walks you through the story brand framework that it's in Canva, and you can actually use that to kind of mock up what it is that you want to do. And you can share that with a web design company to say, these are the words in this place that I want. So visually, you can really help them kind of get you what you want. Yes, thanks, Connie. Perfect. Let's see. I love this. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Okay. So Sarah, if you want, Sarah, let me just see here.
I have a
Angie. Yes.
Oh, sorry.
No, I was just going to put the link to the freebie here.
Yes, please do. Please do. A lot of the women are going to be starting off, well, not a lot, but several of them will be starting off with just like a landing page, just to sort of get started, have a presence, that kind of thing. Of
course. Yeah.
How would you apply this over many pages to just like one landing page?
Is the landing page going to be linking out to anywhere for purchasing or payment, or like, are they?
A question for Lamira.
So typically what we have them do is where they start their lead magnet, right? And they create their little freebie opt-in. And so we have them start in some place like MailerLite or MailChimp, where they're just going to do a landing page to start building their email list. And then the next step would be eventually to get a website. But initially it's just to start building that contact list.
Got it. So really all you would need in that case is making sure that on that opt-in page, let me just, actually, you know what? I already took a screenshot of that. I have it right here. So on that opt-in page, just making sure you're hitting a few of the key pieces of information, like having that, you won't have a learn more button because it's not going to link anywhere, but making sure you're hitting that authority and empathy so that they can see a little bit more about you, what your sort of credentials are. If you're not someone who's worked with 300 people already, but you know what you do works because you were your ideal client from 5 years ago, which is what a lot of us end up being a lot of the time, right? We create solutions because we had a problem that nobody else could solve, and we found a way to solve it better than most, right? Which is obviously where a lot of this came from. So you would be able to put the fact of like your journey in here in a concise way. And you could very easily, if you wanted to, have, like add your logo here, add things to make it feel a little bit more like a website, but just making sure that you are including the piece about sort of who you are and why you're doing this on this opt-in page, I think would be sufficient. And just making sure you're doing the things like we talked about. Again, you won't have the CTA buttons necessarily, but you would in terms of them putting their name, their email, that type of thing, so you could stay consistent across that. Does that make sense, Connie?
Oh yes, that's so great.
Beautiful. Okay, so let me just pull the link up for this. So it's literally the template as you saw, like the one I was kind of walking you through. It's in Canva, so it's a freebie that you can download. But it allows you to then, as you're kind of planning out your homepage, you're planning out your copy, just use the story brand sort of framework and the copy prompts to fill in kind of what's going to go here, what's going to go there. It does come with a video where I walk you through like what section this is, what section this is, and kind of takes you down the template. Beautiful. For any other questions, we have a whole 5 minutes, which doesn't sound long, but it's quite long. Thanks, Samira.
This is so beautifully helpful and so clear. Does anybody have any questions regarding your landing page or the current website you have? Is there any insights that you have of what you've seen actually helps people go from reading what you have to clicking the button and getting the lead magnet or registering for what it is that you're trying to sell? Do you have any tips on that as far as regarding the website, the layout and things like that in making that connection?
I think the biggest thing is going to be like, who are you attracting to the page, and what have you done to attract them to the page, right? So knowing, like Connie, you and I had this conversation the other day, is knowing where you're leading people, right? What is it? What's that journey you want to take them on? What is it you're planning to sell them? Does the lead magnet align with that? And then as I'm out there, whether it's on social media or I'm, bringing organic traffic through Google or whatever the case is, am I putting the right messaging out there so that way when they get to the opt-in page, when they get to the website, when they get to within my business ecosystem, are they the right person right from the get-go? And am I attracting the person that has the problem that I know I can solve? And have I created that opt-in page where they get there and there's no distractions, there's nothing else going on, so they can very clearly see, well, I know I have this problem, right? And I know she's shown me that she's the one that can solve it. So now it's just that opt-in page without any other distractions really allows them to focus in and be like, yes, this is the thing I need now. And then obviously there's a lot of things you can do after the fact to continue to nurture and convert and all that. But it's really, where are you leading them? Is the opt-in page and the lead magnet itself enough of a push to get them to want to trade that email address over? And then what are you putting out there before they're actually coming to your website? Is it the right person that you're attracting, and are they primed, to want to actually get the solution that you're offering?
Love. This is so aligned. I'm just thrilled because it's so aligned with what we teach, and I'm thrilled that they are hearing this from someone else and saying, yes, this works, this whole format. Are there any questions, final questions for sweet Tasha before she needs to go? And no question is an unaskable question. So if there's something you're like, I'm not sure, feel free to ask it.
And I think too, like what I'd love to sort of leave, if nobody does have any questions right now, is just your website really wholeheartedly can be your top performing salesperson if you choose to treat it as such. And that was something, like I said, I was relentless with figuring out right from the get-go, given that I had an 8-month-old and I knew there was going to be another one on the way at some point. And going from corporate, where I felt like every hour of my day was taken all the time, becoming relentless in making this work and knowing that it was possible and that it could work for me while I was doing 100 other things. That's entirely possible if it's something that ends up being important to you and something that you're like unwilling to negotiate on. So if that's what like you're sort of hoping for as your business grows and as you get to, like, it doesn't mean it has to be with our templates, but just know that it is absolutely possible.
I love that, and I love hearing that and knowing that, and that this works. And so just to wrap up, have you, in the time that you started this and to now, how successful do you feel like this, what you've taught us, has made your business?
In terms of like my website performing for us?
Mm-hmm.
So in under 4 years, we had our first $1 million year. So coming from somebody who literally never, I don't think I ever made more than, I don't think I ever hit the $50,000 threshold in corporate. So going from that to saying, to reading blog posts and being on Pinterest and seeing bloggers say, oh, I make 100,000 a month. And I was like, I don't know how I'm going to do that. But I know that it's possible. I know that there are people out there that are doing that. I believe it, and it's possible. So the fact that us hitting that, that's our website performing. I did not single-handedly go and, I mean, I created the products, but I didn't single-handedly go and talk to that many people to make that many sales. This is all happening based on our website, based on our funnel, based on the fact that we're attracting the right person, and then we're nurturing them and selling to them 24/7, 365, because that's what our website and that's what our systems do. Not because I'm not a salesperson by heart. I'm a server by heart. Like I'm like a natural customer service type of person. But so the website does that for us. So yes, it works 100%.
Love that. And I think that's women. We all are naturally service oriented, generally speaking. And I think that's why we don't really like sales. We want to see what's the need and how can we help fill it. And I love that mentality because then it just is a beautiful flow. Tasha, thank you so much. Can everybody give her our, favorite love and let her know how much we appreciate all that you did? This was just absolutely fabulous. Thank you so much for being with us today. Learned so much in such a short period of time. And you guys, that's why she's after my own heart. She's so efficient, but still with heart. I just love it. So thank you so much for spending time with us, and we will be able to chat more with them, and I'm sure they'll be reaching out to you.
Deal. And for Sarah and Angela, I'll provide answers to those 2 questions. I'll send that over to Connie and she can share that with the group.
Oh, I didn't see it. Thank you so much.
Okay.
We want to be respectful of your time. Absolutely.
All good.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Bye, ladies. Have a great day.
Thank you, sweetie.
Bye.
Okay, thoughts on that? What was the takeaway that you got?
That was fantastic info. And I think it's really nice because having read the Story Brand book, this puts it into how you actually implement it. And I'm a visual person, so to see her show everything was super. I love the color blocking to break up the sections, because I tend to, when I'm explaining my Kudos for Kids system, I'm like, well, they're going to want to know what it does. So I'm trying to explain it. And
Yes.
I've got a big chunk of a paragraph and there's no breaks. So I need the breaks. I mean, I have a title, but I love the color blocking.
I'm with you. And I want to just tell them every juicy detail that I've got for them because I'm so excited about what's in the box, right? And they're like, you had me at 3, so just, right? So I love that. Anybody else had a takeaway? I love the breaking it up every 2 sentences or so. Yes. Did you see how much white space she had on that? It's so clean and pleasing to the eye. It's like walking in to a clean white kitchen and you just feel like all things are possible. It's beautiful. Did you see her one big message? How clear that was, her outcomes, her audience avatar, how clear she was about she calls it authority and the
Empathy.
Yeah, the empathy, but we call it credibility and trust, but same thing where she's sharing a little snippet of the journey. I was there, I was X, now I'm Y, and then sharing that credibility. And now I help women to, or people to, blah, 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 blah. Just so beautifully done. I love where did you hear all of these concepts that we teach? It was so thrilling. Where does it lead? And does your lead magnet aligned? We call it an opt-in. But it's the same thing. Is your opt-in aligned with it? It doesn't matter if you have a super sweet or fun idea for an opt-in, great, but does it lead where you want the women to go? Did you see how when you guys had natural questions about, how can I do like an actual template and put this all into action? That's a natural place. After she tells you those things of how to do those things, well then, how do I actually make a template and whatever? And it was a beautiful lead-in question with Angie. Then what did she provide? There's the freebie. And it made sense. She's like, well, here's a free thing from Canva and you can just start playing with it on there and you can make up your template, and worked out perfectly. So Angie could take that and now in real time, take it to their website company and be able to speak with authority on what it is she wants. And no, she's not just throwing pasta on the wall and see if it sticks, but she's doing that story brand, building your story brand method so that it's super clear and she can attract the right people. So that freebie was in complete alignment.